I didn't write this book to be praised. I didn't write it to be recognized. I wrote it because I lived a life that taught me something. And I believe those lessons are worth sharing. I worked with my hands. I built with my sweat. I learned through pain. I raised a family. I built a business. And I faced every challenge head on. This book is not about perfection. It's about persistence. It's about living with pride, working with purpose, and never forgetting who you are. Chapter 1. Knowledge is not power. Applying knowledge is power. Only through actions does knowledge become power. Many people collect knowledge and skills, but few turn them into real change or contributions to others. Strength lies in doing, not just knowing. When you share not only what you know, but also your practical experience, you inspire and equip others to act. That's the difference between a library and a workshop. True value comes from application. You can fill a shelf with education books, memorize facts, obtain degrees, stack up awards. But if none of it is put into practice, what has truly been gained? Even the most intelligent people is silent and inactive, has done nothing for society or the next generation. The world is full of silent geniuses, whose wisdom never left the page. It's tempting to compare ourselves with credentials, to let a diploma or a title define who holds the right to teach, to share, or to shape the future. But some of the greatest lessons I've learned came from people with no special degree, just experience, honesty, and the courage to act. Sometimes what you know seems simple, unimportant, or even foolish next to the experts. But if you apply it, live it, teach it, and share it humbly with those around you, that act is infinitely more powerful than any certificate hanging on the wall. True change does not come from what you know. It comes from what you risk, what you build, and what you pass on. If you help just one person put something into practice, whether it's a skill, a habit, or a better way to live, you've contributed more than a library ever could. That's why this book is not about credentials or the right answers. It's about the lives we touch. When we choose to turn knowledge into meaningful actions, no matter who we are or where we start. I've never had a formal education. No fancy degrees, no tutors, no step-by-step manuals. What I had was curiosity and the will to survive. I remember sitting in front of an old computer I bought used, a tower covered with dust and stickers. It didn't even start right. I didn't even know what BIOS meant or how Linux worked. But I stayed there until daylight, learning line by line, breaking it, fixing it, breaking it again. That's when I learned what real education felt like. It doesn't come from someone handing you the answers. It comes from staying at the table, long after everyone else would have walked away. Knowledge alone is quiet, just sits there. It's the act of doing that gives it power. When I work construction, the same thing applied. Tools don't build houses, hands and discipline do. I remember looking at a broken machine no one wanted to touch. Everybody walked by, said it was junk. I rolled up my sleeves, took the panel off, traced the wires, tightened the bolts, and guessed until it ran again. There was a strange kind of silence after it started. The moment when you realize no one taught you this, you taught yourself. Over time, I noticed that every job, every challenge, every impossible problem had one thing in common. It just waited for someone who refuses to quit. That's what applied wisdom is. Not memorizing lines from somebody else's book, but writing your own through trial and sweat. I didn't learn by reading rules. I learned by living through failure, by burning my fingers, by rebuilding what broke. You get cut, you get tired, but you also gain something no school can give you: instinct. Knowledge is potential, but potential alone feeds no one. You have to turn it into motion. Otherwise, it collects dust in your mind, like books on a shelf nobody opens. Every system I fixed, every project I completed, came from facing one simple truth. Wisdom isn't earned in comfort. It's forged in persistence. So when people brag about what they know, I listen quietly. Because at the end of the day, talk fades, but results remain. What matters isn't how much you learn. It's how much you live through it.